morning, everybody. Hopefully you guys had a great weekend. Hopefully you had a chance to do something fun, exciting. I did something for the first time ever this weekend. I gave myself a haircut. There's a distinct reason that you do not do that. You have somebody do it for you. It's really hard to have the clippers and try to go all around. I ended up taking a pretty good chunk out of the side of my hair. So I'm gonna be wearing hats for a little while because it looks pretty ridiculous. So that's okay. It feels good. It's short hair though. It feels better. So I'm happy about that. That was really the main objective. So okay, let's stop talking about my jacked up haircut. And let's talk a little bit about what we're doing this week. Got a chance to read through some of your DBQs, not all of them, but some of them. Couple things. I would say for the most part, pretty pleased. I think they looked pretty good. Let me put a little nugget in there though. We do need to get better at some of the things that we're doing. I would say for the first one that you did, thumbs up, good job. But this one, if you do the same thing you did last week on this one, the thumbs are going to go more towards neutral. And then next week, if it's not a little better yet, the thumb's going to go to thumbs down. So we do need to get a little better. I think you did a pretty good job for a first attempt. But again, the more we do these, the more natural they're going to become. The easier you're going to, the more natural it's going to be to write these, and you're not going to have to reference notes and stuff as much. So, yeah, I was pretty pleased. We're going to do the 2018 DBQ this week, and we're going to do basically the same format, except for today we're going to do all of the reading of the documents. We're going to fill out this source sheet, say what the documents say, what the point of view was, what the context was. I'm going to have you bring in your outside information, the two pieces of evidence. I'm going to have you bring those in and how you're going to support your argument. And then we're going to talk about this a little bit later. Okay, so we're going to do that today. Thursday, when we get back together, you're going to write the DBQ just like you did last Thursday. You're going to write this. And Friday, just like you did last Friday, you are going to kind of put in parentheses like context or thesis or evidence. So I know, hey, this is where you think you would have scored that point. Okay. Couple of things. Let's go to the rubric. And I made a couple changes on this just as kind of we looked at things and I'm like, hey, this is something I think we did a really good job of. This is something that I think needs to be highlighted. A thesis statement. I think for the most part, people did a nice job. I think almost everybody would have scored a point in the thesis. The few of you that I'd say wouldn't have scored a point, here's probably why. I think you made it too complicated. Really, you had three options on this thesis, on last week's thesis. You could have really said the attitudes definitely got moved more towards independence. The attitudes were exactly the same towards independence. The attitudes were reduced towards independence. And I think the third thing, I'm not sure there's any way to prove that they were less. I think that would have been probably you just for saying that you would have got the point for the thesis, but I think it would have been hard to score points after that if you would have taken that route. So really you had two choices. Anyway, they got more complicated. I think you ran the risk of losing your point because it was harder to connect to what you were saying. It wasn't really clear exactly what your argument was. Keep it simple. If the prompt asks you, again, how did it change? You said it got significantly greater. That's a pretty defensible claim. You can make that justification. Contextualization. Here's the big thing, and I put this in. Here's the big thing that I saw. A lot of you said, hey, here's my context. And I would say, if you look at their rubric, you need to lay down to get that point, you need to kind of lay the evidence down for a couple sentences or a paragraph. And a lot of you just said, here's the thing, they were in the French-Indian War, that connects, boom, there's my point. Okay, that's not going to score the point. You got to really lay out why does this connect to what they were doing? Why does this change the colonists' attitude towards Great Britain? You really got to connect it to what's going on. Okay, so that was, I think, probably one of the bigger problem areas I saw. So thesis statement, very good. Contextualization, I think a lot of you probably would have struggled to get that point, for sure. Evidence. I think everybody used the 4 documents. That's good. I think everybody brought 2 pieces of evidence in. That's good. But to score the 5 points, you have to do this. And I think some of you probably would have fallen short on getting the points. You put the documents in, but to actually get the point, you have to connect the evidence, whether it's the additional pieces or the document to what your argument was. So if I said, I think the attitudes of the colonists were significantly moving towards independence, document 3 would definitely back me up on this. And that if that was my DBQ, I've now talked about document 3. That's good. I wouldn't have scored a point yet because I didn't really prove how does it do that. Why? Why does that show that they're becoming more independent? So you got to actually say it. I know sometimes it's like, well, look at what it said. You know, he talks about becoming more, more patriotic, and if you don't like the way things are going, that you can leave. You've got to actually spell it out and make the connection to the actual prompt and the actual argument. So it's kind of the equivalent of a trial. If you're like, hey, here's the murder weapon, and here's Tim, and hey, there's a dead body, and there's all of these things. If you don't connect all those things together, all we have is a gun, a guy, and a dead body, and we don't know how they fit together. That could be anything. So you actually got to put these pieces together, and I think that's again, if there's a focal point for the week, that's it. I think this is it, and this is it. And I think really it's kind of the same argument. You just got to spell it out a little bit more. You got to be a little more detailed. And again, I think you probably were racing the clock a little bit last week, and I understand that. So, but I would say focus more on actually spelling, going back and actually doing this. I don't think it's a horrible idea to put yourself in the clock, just like last week. But if that clock goes off, I still think it's a good idea to continue to develop your DBQ. Remember, the ones that we're using are for past years when they gave them more time to write these. So again, there's going to be a little bit difference in the ones you get and the ones that we're doing too. Okay. This last thing, it says, the last thing that I noticed says, for the last point, you must demonstrate a complex understanding of historical development. That is the focus of the prompt. Examples, multiple causes, cause and effect, how the issue stretches across multiple periods. So I put that actually on the source sheet, the very bottom. Okay, how does it spread against multiple periods? How does it affect the U.S. going forward? So I think for this one that we're talking about, this prompt, I think we can talk about after 1910. We can talk about going into like the progressive era, and probably the easy one to connect is World War I. We're going into World War I. And the idea of between 1865 and 1910, the United States starts to get a little bit more involved in world affairs. Remember, worldwide, we have a lot of people that are building up big empires, trying to gain as many colonies as possible. Industrialization is happening. So again, you can make those connections. Yeah, there we go. Okay, I think that's pretty much it. If you would like me to make a video that kind of lets you know what these documents mean, please let me know. Now, I would like you to try to tackle it yourself first. Like, see what you can do. And then if you want me to make a video, I can, is a nice little check. That's not a horrible idea. Kind of let me know if that's something you're interested in. I will have, again, office hours. I have them Monday through Thursday, so you can stop in on the days that aren't your day. Mondays, Wednesdays, you can absolutely stop in and ask questions. I think sometimes it's easier to go over this writing stuff face to face, so you can kind of have some interaction with me. So feel free to stop in. Feel free to give me those emails. I'm game on all of it. If you have suggestions for making videos, I've put a couple of them out there, 3 or 4 or 5 of them, I don't know. I'll try to turn them around pretty quick. I know the beginning of this week's been a little bit hectic with grades and all of that stuff, so I've been a little slower, but I think I'm getting kind of out of that quagmire and into a little, back into the rhythm I had last week. So please shoot me those suggestions, those questions. Stop by and see me during the office hours on the Zoom. We can do that. Other than that, hopefully you guys have a great day, and I will see you around.